It's official. Lamar Jackson is back. What does that mean for this team moving forward? This is Sam Njoku, host of the Ravens Talk podcast. I think it means some good things ahead for the Ravens.
I'm Kadri Ismail, Super Bowl champion, and I will say he's back, yes. But is the defense ready to perform? That's the question.
And the Bears are on a heater right now. The Ravens are not. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. The Ravens need this win in a bad way, but how can they actually get it done? We talk about that. So much more coming up on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Flock together and squad up. Indeed, welcome to another episode of the Ravens Squad Show. This is Sam Njoku, joined as always with Kevin Ostreicher and Kadri Ismail. This is it. Lamar Jackson is back. He is returned to practice, albeit on a limited basis, but we will take the victories as we can get it because we haven't seen Lamar Jackson on the practice field in quite some time. The Ravens do have a game coming up against the Chicago Bears. So lots and lots of stuff to talk about. We'll touch on the return of Lamar Jackson. We'll touch on the keys to the game because the Ravens do, in fact, have to play a football team finally after that bye week. And we'll talk about predictions upcoming for this Ravens-Bears matchup. We will see who will get the job done. We'll also let you know that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Kevin, Lamar Jackson is back, returning to the glory that is the practice football field. People think in preparation for a Ravens contest against the Chicago Bears. What are your thoughts about his return and how much of a boost is this for this Ravens team?
Oh, man, I mean, this is everything. And you heard John Harbaugh talk about it after the fact where, Lamar being back boosts morale. It boosts everything. I mean, this is the franchise guy. This is the guy that he, along with many others around the team and in the fan base, are hoping can get this team on the right track. They need to go on a big win streak here. And this is kind of what I was waiting on. I know we talked about it on Monday with the whole, Lamar's not practicing. What does that mean? I said, look, I want to wait until Wednesday. Let's see. And apparently he almost didn't even come out. It was 20 minutes after the fact. And he say, all right, now I'm going to make my big grand entrance. So look, it was limited basis on Wednesday. You hope that he can put together at least a couple more limited sessions. Lamar doesn't necessarily need to practice to play. He doesn't even need to practice in full to play. But, hopefully by the end of the week, he'll get up to full. I hope that there are no limitations for Lamar. I don't think the team would put him out there if there were any. I don't think that'd be good business or good for Lamar, good for the team or anybody. So really good sign he's out there. They need him. As we've talked about, I have zero confidence in Cooper Rush, zero confidence in Tyler Huntley. I have 1% confidence in Tyler Huntley, but 0% in Cooper Rush. So they need Lamar out there in a big way. It was, I think, a big nerve point for a lot of people, myself included, about, all right, is he going to be out there on Wednesday? This is going to tell us a lot about if he's going to be able to play on Sunday, and this is a good sign for him. Doesn't mean he'll 100% play. John Harbaugh didn't really give anybody anything in terms of that, but at least he's out there on the field. That in itself is a good sign.
So I guess if J-Boss 1872 is thinking what I'm thinking, I don't blame him. If you can't block for him, it's not going to matter. Stop with the Superman crap on the team, or the team needs to be better. So I think it's this. I agree with what J-Boss is saying. You have to protect Lamar. Yes, I also recognize Lamar has that Superman capability, though, J-Boss. His big play capabilities, his escapability, I think that's more predicated on his health and his hamstring more than anything else. So absolutely, it's great to see him back out there. As you said, KO, it's funny how, everyone was just waiting. And then 20 minutes later, here he comes. I observed as he was kind of, doing the portion where you could video him, that it looked like he wasn't limping, didn't look like he was favoring anything, looked smooth. Like he was just like, all right, cool. I'm out here. I'm about to do my thing. And so that's a good sign. It's a great sign. I think the energy of the team, it definitely steps up when you have all hands on deck, and in particular, number 8. Yes, it has to be about the offensive line protecting him. I also saw in one of the video clips that was released by our peeps over at the castle was number 79 also was out and about, and it looked like Ronnie was walking and not necessarily favoring, and it didn't. I observed that it wasn't necessarily an ankle wrap or tape that was like more than the norm. So, got your stud tackle back. You're going to just hope and pray that somehow, some way, Daniel Faalele, ole. Oh, look out, Lamar. He's about to hit you. Hopefully that is in the rearview mirror because, yeah, like I don't want Lamar running for his life a la the Lions game. I want him to be efficient and just slicing and dicing people. And I also don't want it to be where it was like in the Chiefs game where, yeah, he's trying to throw, but you can't set up the throw because you got pressure in your face. All that comes down to good offensive line play.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now I agree with it completely. This offensive line is still to me the story of the season. Can they keep whoever's under center, whether it be Lamar Jackson, whether it be you and I, out there playing quarterback? Somebody needs to get out there and block effectively for this football team. And of note, the Ravens did make a move. Not only did Lamar Jackson come back, but Emory Jones was placed onto the main roster. Tavius Robinson has that IR injury, has that broken foot injury that placed him on IR. So, we talked about this for the last week or so, whether or not Emory Jones has what it takes to come out and be that guard for them. He mentioned during the open media portion, the conversation with the media, that his shoulder feels fine. He feels good to go. It's just going to be a matter of, in my opinion, prep. What are your thoughts about him? I'll start with UQ. With the replacement of Faalele, could be Emory Jones, maybe Corey Bullock, maybe it's Ben Cleveland, even though we all agree that that's less likely than the others. Do you see them making the change for this offensive line? Because I think that's another story within the story, because Lamar Jackson can't go out there, in my opinion, with the same 5 that he did against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that Bullock looks to me the more favorable replacement of Daniel. I don't believe it would be in the team's best interest to just put Emory Jones out there without camp, without some sort of something preseason, regular season, just, he's going to go out there and be an all-star. Boy, that's a tall, tall order. I just think that, yeah. Okay, so Yamil PR, it's important to remember that Emory started as a freshman on LSU. I appreciate that nugget of information. Don't get me wrong. You can say, yes, he has SEC blood, elite caliber players that he's going up against. Again, Yamil, I'm saying pro football and college football, 2 different worlds. I appreciate the optimism. I am somewhat pessimistic about the play for him because he didn't prepare for the onslaught of the speed of the game. That is my biggest concern, especially when it's late in the year. You're going up against some of the best, and that's the reality. And it doesn't really matter. Like, okay, as much as Adafe, Owe, almost was here, and I was like, golly, go ahead and, you got that Thursday night game against Miami and let Emory go against Adafe. I'm saying that you do a little stunt action and Emory doesn't have his foot placement corrected, that dude is going to be on his butt. That's pro football for you. So
yeah,
it's the details that really concern me more than the name on the back of the jersey and what he did as a freshman at LSU.
No, I mean, I get that. And I think that for me, Emory is someone that just, he needs time, right? I think that's the big thing where if they were to make a change this week, it's not going to be Emory Jones. Down the line, once he gets more reps in and practice, because I agree, I think just throwing him into the fire with nothing doing is not smart for anybody. I think it's not good for him. I think it's not good for the team. I really think Corey Bullock could be this guy for them, because again, I have no confidence that Ben Cleveland will actually play for them. Maybe he does, and if I am wrong, it's the Locked On Ravens reverse jinx. I'm just putting it out there now. But I think at this point, and I saw the comment earlier, that look, anything at this point is better than what Daniel Falele has given them. And again, you could have even had that conversation about Andrew Voorhees at some point, but I thought he played a lot better against the Rams, as many people have noted and seen. So I'm willing to give him the extra week. But I've said this a ton, and we've all talked about it here on the show. It's the Ravens' duty, in my opinion, to put the best 5 guys out there to block Lamar Jackson that they have at their disposal. It's another duty to get the roster right and to get the best possible line you can in the offseason. Unfortunately, we're not there anymore. Now you have to work with what you have. And I think that Patrick McCary masked a lot of the depth weaknesses that the Ravens had at certain points, because you could throw him out there in any position. And while he wasn't spectacular, wasn't a star in any one of those, he was extremely solid and could go in a pinch. And he was essentially, you had 5 players in one with Patrick McCary who you could throw out there. Now for the Ravens, you don't have that, and you have to put out the best 5 that you have, because in the offseason, we've talked about it, they didn't address the guard position, in my opinion, the way that they should have, and they brought in some guys, but not enough at that spot. But the Ravens, I think, aren't putting the best 5 out there that they can. I think that there is opportunity for them to at least try something, because look, if you try something and it doesn't work, at least then, haven't we gone through this? Weren't we just here last year with the defense where nothing was working? They were terrible, and they said, all right, we have to try something. We can't keep going the way that it's going. And they bring Ardarius into a bigger role. They move Kyle Hamilton around. Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, see you later. If they didn't try that and just said, we're just going to keep going back to the well, we wouldn't have seen that. The defense probably would have just continued to play poorly for the rest of the season. So I get giving guys runway. I understand that. I'm not saying like, okay, Daniel Falele or Andrew Voorhees or anybody has one bad game and see you later. That's it, right? You have to give guys opportunity. But when the opportunity they are presented does not end up resulting in consistently solid play, which again, no one's going to be perfect. Guys are going to have bad games. I understand that. But the thing with Falele is essentially for the better part of 2 years now, you just haven't seen the consistency get to where it needs to be on a contending team, or at least a team that is or was or whatever you want to say, trying to contend for a Super Bowl. And so that to me is where I just think you have to try something different. And obviously the one that everyone's looking at right now is Daniel Falele.
Yep. I think it's going to be him. I really do. I think Daniel Falele is going to be the one that has that one to get. I think Corey Bullock's going to be one to replace him. Now, to your point, I agree. I think Ymir said that, Emory Jones started as a freshman at LSU. Emory Jones, I'm sure he had camp. I'm sure he had time to get acclimated from that transition from high school to college. And Emory Jones didn't get that transition period from college to the pros. And that leap between college and, high school is vastly different from the leap from college to the pros. You talk about taking 2 steps from high school to college. It is a monumental jog followed by 2 sprints going back and forth from college to the pros. It's just an entirely different beast. So it wouldn't be fair to either Lamar Jackson or Emory Jones, in my opinion, to put him out there if he wasn't ready. Now, again, maybe the Ravens see something in 2 weeks that he's been practicing. Okay, this guy's the truth. Let's just put him out there and see what happens. Sure, that's a possibility, but I think it's much more likely that they use a guy like Corey Bullock to come in and spell in for Daniel Falele. I think it's also more likely that no changes are made. We've seen John Harbaugh just stick to his guns before. I'm sure we'll all be disappointed when 77's trying back out there to face the Chicago Bears team. And, we'll just have to deal with it. But the matter of fact is Lamar Jackson is back. We'll see if he does play. Based on Q's assessment, he looked pretty good, not gimpy at all. So that boosts my spirits up a little bit. We'll see what happens on Thursday and Friday. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll touch on the keys to the game, because the Ravens do, in fact, have a game to play. And even though Lamar Jackson's back, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get the victory. We hope so, but there are things to talk about in this contest. We'll touch on it here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during the games. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. We are back here with the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Sam Njoku, Kevin Ostraker, Kadri Ismail here talking Ravens football. Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And after every Ravens contest, the next one up Sunday. So expect a show post game after the Ravens hopefully get the job done against the Chicago Bears. You can also catch the Locked On Ravens podcast Monday through Friday, even during the weekends with Kevin O, getting it done for you with the Ravens news. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching live here on YouTube, or give us 5 stars wherever you're listening to your podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Ravens versus Bears. Let's touch on what we were kind of talking about earlier, which is this Ravens offense versus the Chicago Bears defense. Q, I'll start with you because Pat Ricard is another guy who's been practicing. Looks like he's going to be able to go. Another offensive lineman for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to work with to get this running game going. What are your thoughts about this Ravens offense against the Chicago Bears defense?
Well, I would say, first of all, the comments in the comment section, they chopping it up and bringing it really, really well. Yamil, bruh, take away the U and the Q. They don't go together in my name. Okay, look, hook your boy up. Let us know.
Oh, God.
But I do like the fact that you can get rid of one of those extra 5th round picks for Zeitler. I know that is KO's realm when he loves to kind of draft nick it and figure out all the little details with the salary cap. However, yes, a Zeitler trade, I would welcome that with open arms. Yamil, you're absolutely right. Greg Carter, bruh, I hear you as far as Emery and Bullock are the best 2 players, and you're saying as far as running power O and that zone run scheme. So I think that is really admirable to say that they can do it. I know that guys in the locker room, both athletic and have decent speed to be pulling guards. Credit, boom, tip of the cap as far as the breakdown. Appreciate it all in there. Now you good, bro. I got you, Yamil. But I will say this, the problem that I'm seeing is that when you have young players, we saw it, for example, that Texans game when you had so many young players and you thought, all right, well, these guys just going to show up, and they didn't. And or Malachi Starks, for example, Mike Green, both guys were drafted ahead of Bullock and obviously Emery and all the things that they've presented. And Malachi hasn't really done much of anything this year from a impact. Has he been in position? Sure, you could say he lined up and done all the things, but we're talking impact plays. When it comes to the ability to make an impact play, Mike Green has just been okay. He hasn't done that, strip sack, fumble, recovery, get up and down the field and, oh, that was John Jenkins. Yeah, I forgot about that. So that's it. You haven't really seen it. And if those guys are rated that high, then from a blocking scheme aspect of things, are we expecting these guys to go out there and just ball out? I think we got to temper our expectations, especially when it's late in the year. Will they probably have fresh legs and fresh kind of like that, strength in their arms? Sure. But I'm saying from the experience of it all, mother of pearl. This is one of those situations where, yes, you need to replace Daniel Fa'alele, period, in the discussion. But critically, the question becomes with who? Now, that being said, let me stop being Fa'alele and missing off my speaking. But that being said, to your point, Samuel, the big thing that I think is critical for Patrick Ricard, unlike what we saw with Zaire, he has that capability to get out of the backfield and make plays in the passing attack. And so you'll be like, oh boy, here we go, Greg Roman again. No, 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 no. We're not saying that. What we are saying is there's deception of a run fake, and therefore, if you overplay it, you have Patrick Ricard as an outlet, a valuable outlet that you did not have with Zaire. And so you can't just play the run. You have to be more honest with it. And that is an advantage for the offense when it comes to the red zone. So there are little details there that he brings to the table, more versatility than when you're sitting there and you're looking at Zaire in the backfield, or hopefully we won't be seeing Daniel Falele, we'll be seeing someone else.
I mean, I think Ricard is an absolutely massive addition, both figuratively and literally. I mean, he's just a huge human in general. But I think that, when you talk about like you said, the versatility that he brings to the offense and everything that he does, I'm curious. And this is, again, I feel like I have one of these like big brain theories or questions a show now. I know my Jair one on Monday was the big one for me. Here's my thing, and it relates to our conversation. Are the Ravens not going to make a change on the offensive line this week because they want to see what it looks like with Patrick Ricard first? That could be. Now, again, is that what I would do? No, I would make a change. All right. I'm just the messenger here. Okay. I'm just asking the question because I think that's what we should do here. With Locked On Ravens Squad shows, we should ask questions. We should try to, decipher them as best as we can. Do the Ravens want to say, look, we know the offensive line has been worse than expected, but we haven't had Patrick Ricard back. Now, I think that's unfair to Ricard personally, because that's essentially asking him to come in and save the offensive line. It's almost like asking Lamar to come in and save the team. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it past anybody to have that be the thing that they try to do. Again, I would make the change. Corey Bullock, go on in there, do your thing. Emory Jones, whatever, whoever. But do the Ravens want to see this thing with Patrick Ricard? I mean, I don't know. Sam, is there any, am I talking crazy? Is there any merit to that? What do you think?
I think there is merit to it, but not the way in which you're looking at it. I think the Ravens are pausing on making a trade because they know if they lose these next two games, it's over. They switch from being buyers to sellers in that aspect. But I think that if they have the mindset, okay, we're going to attack this thing, let's win now, they should have went and got a guy before this season, before this week started. Getting to Kevin Zeitler, as we all mentioned, would have been great. Some offensive lineman, somebody to come and shore things up. But to your point, I think the Ravens are going to wait until they win either, both the games against the Bears and the Dolphins, two winnable games, even without Lamar Jackson. If this team is who we thought they were, they should get the job done. But with Lamar Jackson, they certainly have to get the job done. Then I believe with that little bit of time between the Dolphins game and the deadline, they should be 100% making the move. But we'll see. I think they should have made a move for Kevin Zeitler or somebody by now, but hasn't happened. What about you, Q?
Yeah, I think they should have made at least with Zeit. He's no Cam Ward. He wasn't on the no, we ain't getting rid of him list. So if that was the case, then it takes two to tango, and it looked like the Titans were ready to tango. We've seen what they've done with at least bringing in guys and working them out. I know, what was it, Lawson from the former Jet was brought in, and there was a couple of other guys that were brought in. I know they signed a guy to their practice squad, the D lineman, international guy, but I'm not going to try to butcher his name and expect everybody to pronounce my name right, because that ain't happening. I just think the big picture, though, is yes, you need help on that defensive front. Yes, you have some pieces in place to replace Daniel Falele now, but it would have been, yes, I think a shot in the arm if you would have got Zeitler and brought him in. I think his veteran presence, his toughness, his just ability to do what he does, I think that would have been really cool. But that's not good. And no given. All right. Love you with the QU. Anywho, not going to go ahead and do that. Yeah, I like your name, but I don't like it that much, brother. Very clever. So with that said, I think the big picture is this. When you see that pregame warm-up, it's going to say a lot. Is it going to be 77 or somebody different? And then I think bigger picture wise, what is it going to be when you look at the D line and how they're going to manufacture pressure? That's the big 1-2 punch to me in this next 2-game scenario. You can talk all you want as far as Lamar being back, but to be all the way back and to win these games, you need everybody. And it starts up front. I've been saying that, and I'm going to keep on saying it.
Yeah, very good point for sure. I think that the Ravens might want to mimic something that the Steelers did against the Bengals, obviously to no avail as they lost the game, but keeping 6 offensive linemen, protecting Lamar, if they in fact keep Daniel Falele. Let's talk about this. What if the Ravens decide to keep Daniel Falele, but shift Voorhees from the starting lineup and put Corey Bullock in there? What would your thought process be in that regard? Because Voorhees has struggled for the early portions of the season, kind of kicked things back up, especially against the Rams. Would it be head scratching if the Ravens went that way with Voorhees and kept, the Harbaugh guy and Daniel Falele?
KO, like what I mean, I get it that he played better, but like no, I wouldn't feel. I mean, the fact that like both of them gotta go, but if one gotta go before the other, it ain't Voorhees. Like I know he's the vortex, and it's like you're into the void. Oh, there he is, somewhere around there. I don't know. Maybe that's him. Who knows? Look at the back of his jersey, because that's all we're seeing. D lineman is just in there in the backfield, but oh well, Voorhees, the vortex. No, I don't want him in there either. But Daniel, mother of pearl, I'm falling over my feet again, and I'm roly-poly-oly. Get rid of roly-poly-oly before we get rid of the vortex.
The thing with Voorhees, and like I hear you, Q, with the he hasn't played good, and there should be an opportunity for them to change if they want to there. I just think with the Rams game, I'd give him another week, and if that doesn't work, then okay. But I think that with Falele, it's crazy because like Voorhees was bad, really bad early on in the season. Like there were like stats that backed up like Falele was playing better than Voorhees at points during this season with how bad Voorhees was doing. And so to your point, it's like, you can't just wipe away all of that because he had a better game against the Rams. But at the same time, I think that, honestly, there's a world where they make changes with both guys and they say Corey Bullock and Ben Cleveland get on in there, or Emory Jones, or, whoever you want to throw in there. It's just been bad. And it goes back to a conversation we've had over and over again. So, we don't have to get into it because we've said it so many times, but they needed to bring in more competition. The Ravens invest so much money in certain positions, such as their secondary each and every single season, so much capital there. Even when they traded off Aowe, where'd they go? They went to get a safety. So it's like that kind of stuff. And I get it. Like with Hamilton being really the only guy there you can trust right now, Starks obviously hasn't been as trustworthy as you would hope. You had a couple of undrafted guys. It was a need for them, but you have a couple of $100 million players there. We've talked about the first round draft picks, and at the guard positions, it was just kind of like, okay, whatever. We're just going to do it. It's whatever. They need a guy like Zeitler in. And I think that it's so obvious. Like it is so obvious that's the move that they need to make. He's going to be available. He's not going to cost you a crazy amount of draft capital. He might even retire after this year. And okay, but you just need something there. And while I think Corey Bullock has a lot of potential, Emory Jones has a lot of potential, we can't keep saying the word potential and then say, all right, they're going to compete for a Super Bowl, because, potential is great, but you have to realize that potential if you want to go anywhere, if you're a contending team. And right now there are some guys, and it's not fair to rookies per se, especially not to an entire draft class, which is essentially what the Ravens have. They've had to play a lot of these guys in spots they probably didn't anticipate playing them. Some guys do need to learn. So some guys weren't ready to play, and that's okay. But the problem is when you're a team that's competing or wants to compete and that happens, it costs you games, it costs you seeding, it costs you other opportunities. And that's where it kind of all goes wrong. And I know that Falele isn't a rookie, Voorhees technically isn't either, although he's barely had any starting experience. Those are guys that you're banking on the potential. And to some extent, when you have a quarterback on the contract Lamar Jackson has, you need to do that. And you need to build your roster around young guys because, you can't just, the Ravens loved signing guys to like 4-year, $20 million contracts. They did that with guys like Ricard, Nick Boyle, Tavon Young. They had that sweet spot of guys where you just gave a guy 3 years, 25 or 4 years, 30. You can't really do that as much when you have Lamar Jackson on the contract he's on. And it's not just Lamar. Obviously, you're paying a lot of other guys a lot of money too. But when you have young players, you need to have that Nate Wiggins boom right away impact from a lot of those guys if they're playing big snaps. And right now, they haven't gotten that from a lot of their rookie class, unfortunately. I think the one guy that's been the most consistent, honestly, has been Tyler Loop, sans the kickoffs, and he's even gotten better at those. And that's great news for the special teams unit, but you need a little bit more from the rookie class in general. So a lot of big decisions coming up for the Ravens. And again, I get that Falele and Voorhees aren't rookies, but it's kind of the same conversation with young players who aren't as experienced as well.
Very well said. I agree completely. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's touch on the defense, which kind of stepped up a little bit against the Rams. They still ranked dead last in terms of points per game, so they'll need to step it up against a Bears team that has some fire to them, led by Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift. We'll talk about that and so much more next here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We're talking Ravens football here. Touched on the offense for the first part of the show. Let's talk about the defense that has gone through a myriad of changes. They traded away Odafe Obe. They're bringing out Alohi Gilman. They switched to a more 3 safety outlook. Nnamdi Madubuike is out for the year. So this team is not the same team we thought we'd see when the game first started for the Ravens in Buffalo in week 1. The Ravens do have a contest against the Bears team that has shown a lot of fire. Q, I'm sure you've paid attention to the Bears in recent weeks. What do you think this defense will need to do against this Bears team to have any chance of winning?
Caleb Williams does not like pressure. No quarterback likes pressure, but other quarterbacks, there are certain quarterbacks that thrive in it. And because they thrive in it, they get paid. And so teams don't want to put pressure, or coordinators don't want to put their team out there and then get sliced and diced a la Patrick Mahomes. So again, when you look at, for example, Geno Smith and the Las Vegas Raiders, Geno is veteran as veteran can be, but homeboy is turning that football over at a rapid rate. And part of it is the pressure that's upon him, but also part of it is where he will get some confusion looks and he'll just throw it right to the defender. So all the other part of it is with him feeling like, you know what, I trust my guys. Well, that trust has been betrayed and those guys haven't really stepped up, and sure enough, the ball gets turned over. You flip that around with Caleb Williams. I think his processing has improved under Ben Johnson. He seems like he is going through it as far as his reads and what he needs to do and getting the ball out. He has some good, talented players around him for sure. The thing is that when he gets under pressure, then he tries to freelance. That's what gets them in trouble. What won them games is that they've had against, for example, the Commanders, they needed to run the ball. And sure enough, here they go. They run that football, and next thing you know, you're in great position. You're not putting it in harm's way with Caleb Williams. So guys are playing well enough around him to hide some of his deficiencies. But if you want to win this game defensively, you're going to need to pressure Caleb Williams. You can't let him freelance and run down the football field if you quote unquote got him. You got to get him and get him down. Period. End of discussion. I think also bigger picture wise, their special teams is no joke either. And so the mix of their special teams, clearly what they've done defensively, just creating, seems they're just a turnover machine. We're going to intercept you. We're going to intercept you again. Hey, bro, look at that. Throw it this way. We're going to get it and pick it off again. So Caleb Williams is the elephant in the room. Ben Johnson, yes, people were like, oh, well, the schedule. I'm like, well, last I checked, the Commanders had them beat and they pulled off a fourth quarter win. Like at Washington, that is a tough place to play. They did it, and Washington was on the uptick. So you got to miss me with the, oh, well, look at the record of those teams they played. Yeah, they played those teams and beat them. So they won 4 in a row. Period. End of discussion. This is pro football. They're not playing against the Bills. They're not playing against the Commanders or the Eagles. Pause on that. What I am saying is they won 4 in a row. Give them their due. Caleb Williams, you got to get him off his spot and pressure him and force him to make turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. And I'll piggyback off what you said there, Q. The Bears defense is the best in the league at forcing turnovers. They forced 16 so far on the season through their 6 games, their first in turnover percentage as well. The Ravens defense are 30th in the NFL, or I guess tied for 29th if you want to get technical about it in the NFL right now, with just 3 turnovers in their 6 games. I mean, this is going to come down to the turnover battle because, you know, like you said, with pressuring Caleb Williams and getting him off his spot and rattling him a little bit, you can't also give them opportunities to continue to try to drive down the field and score. You're going to have a lot of your guys healthy for this game. Hopefully, you know, I'm hoping for a Roquan Smith revenge game, right? I mean, I know a lot of people are. I know there was that video of him, the Ravens posted, and I guess that was controversial. People saying he looked out of shape. I didn't do a deep enough dive on it to know. I mean, I thought it just looked like a regular video, but we know that Roquan has faced some of those criticisms over the last calendar year or so that, you know, he's looked a little out of shape and certainly came into the season last year and didn't perform super well. So they need Roquan to step up in a big way. We know Marlon Humphrey didn't practice for them. We'll see if he's able to play on Sunday. But, you know, the Ravens right now, and what we were talking about, the not trading for anybody or not bringing anybody in, I'm just curious to see what they do in terms of this outside linebacker spot. And I really think the answer is going to be Trenton Simpson.
Yep.
I think the answer is going to be Trenton Simpson, and they're going to play him out there. Obviously, he played that in college. We've seen him do it with the Ravens as well. We saw him do it last couple of weeks, and he actually has excelled in spots there for the Ravens. So I think that's their answer. Again, it's going internal, trying to see what you have at this point in the season. If you're not trading for anybody, I mean, we're just going to have a Ravens reunion. Are we going to bring back Yannick Ngakoue and, you know, get Matt Judon back in here on a trade? And, you know, Zadarius Smith coming out of retirement, you can come on over too, like getting everybody back. You know, you can even get Tyus Bowser out here if you want to. Like, you know, it's not going to be easy to go and get someone that you think can make an immediate impact on the free agent market today. I mean, Christian Wilkins, obviously defensively, that's someone we've talked about on the line, but obviously there's the injury situation as well as the whole thing that happened in the Raiders locker room. So that to me is the big thing. I mean, Kyle Van Noy, can he step up? And I saw people talking about it in the chat a little while ago that, you know, the Bears are dealing with some injuries on the offensive side of the ball right now. I know DeAndre Swift did not practice. DJ Moore did not practice. Cole Kmet did not practice as well. So again, it's Wednesday. You have a couple more days to get back on the field. But I believe DeAndre Swift played hurt for them last week. I don't know if he's going to suit up this week and play. but those would be losses for the Bears. And that's where the Ravens have the rest advantage of the bye week. And Q, I know that you've gone through bye weeks and had that, rest and recovery, and you maybe went into a game the next week playing a team that was all beat up. And, was that advantageous to you? Like, did you feel like you had an advantage in terms of rest and just being a little more crisp and on time and just better than the other team because the other team was beat up and you weren't?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think there's a freshness to coming out of the bye. I remember being a part of the Ravens broadcast, and we would always talk about how the bye would be late in the year. And going into the bye, John Harbaugh had a favorable record. Going out of the bye, John Harbaugh had a favorable record until it wasn't. And I think a lot of that has to do with preparation. A lot of that has to do with, the timing of how you practice and what amount of time you give players off. The good signs of guys coming back, the Ricards, the Stanleys, obviously the Lamars of the world, all coming back. That's good. Yet at the same time, yes, the fact that you have key players on the other side of the football for the Bears that are banged up, and let's see how that turns out. I've we've seen it where guys have been totally just banged up, decimated teams have come into M&T Bank and they've taken care of business with a banged up roster. So that concerns me, because sometimes you can rally the troops, and that's why I'm hoping that the troops are rallied in the opposite direction this time around. It's interesting because Tony Williams, he says Caleb has played poorly. That Commanders game was won by the run game. If we can't stop them from running, we can win. So if we can stop them from running, excuse me, you're right, Tony. I think that if it is a scenario where, stopping this team, getting it into Caleb Williams' hands, and then you do something about it, meaning your secondary, maybe Marlon will get some glizzies and pass it around, the whole team to try out or something. I don't know, but something. But
Crazy.
yeah, like, bruh, this has to be one of those games where, you know what? You got a strong, stout defensive front, and I hope Trenton Simpson plays well. I hope he does. I hope he is like on point. But the fact that this defense is they're on the cusp, and I'm hoping that by them being on the cusp, that they play out of their minds. They play phenomenal, and we look at them having a victory celebration in the locker room with Marlo handing out some glizzies.
Yeah, I think that would be bad. I think what scares me the most is what you mentioned, that Caleb Williams doesn't look great when he's under pressure, one, and when he has multiple looks to think about. He's a young QB, not the most polished pre-snap of the bunch, but that lets me think that maybe Zach Orr tries to get a little too cute. Maybe we see more Mike Green falling back in the coverage. Maybe we see more off coverage from the cornerbacks, and then the defensive lineman running over there to get the coverage over there. Something that we've seen in the past with Zach Orr. So that's my big concern. I think that the Ravens would be better served if they attack the football. I'm okay with trying to get blitzing through organized coverage, or whatever you want to call it, organized blitzing, maybe some faux blitzing, whatever you need to do to get that pressure, because we know that it's going to be a tall task for Kai Vanoy and Mike Green and David Ajabo to get that pressure. Maybe even Trenton Simpson, if he plays the edge a little bit. I think he did play a little bit of edge in that Rams game as well. So all those guys are going to have to come up together and get something done. Hopefully Zach Orr's use these 2 weeks to get themselves together. They have a crazy 2-game stretch. I know the Bears are, not the most exciting football team, and we know the Dolphins are the Dolphins, but 2 games that are as much win as must win can be, because if they win these 2 games, as I mentioned, they're going to head towards the trade deadline thinking they have a shot to win this division, with the Packers game against the Steelers upcoming, with the Bengals playing who they need to play to get back in contention. This is still the division ready for the Ravens to take, but will they get the job done against the Bears? That is the question of the day. When we come back, we'll touch on that. Do the Ravens have what it takes with Lamar Jackson, maybe without Lamar Jackson, to get the job done in a crucial game here in Week 8? We'll touch on it here next on the Ravens Squad Show. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it is frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about the Ravens games as low as $100 in some aspects, maybe about $200 considering that Lamar Jackson's coming back. But more games, more ways to get money, more ways to save money with Gametime. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Gametime today. We're back here with the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Sam Njoku, Kevin O, Kadri Ismail, talking Ravens football here Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for joining us here as we are amped up. Earlier today, Lamar Jackson comes back to the practice field. Everyone rejoices. We have a chance to potentially get our second win of the season here in week 8, which is crazy to say out loud. If you told me this 6, 7, 8 weeks ago that the Ravens would be looking for their second win of the season post-bye, I'd be cackling and thinking that you're on something. But that's where we are today. The Ravens are a one-win football team here. The only win against the Browns. Do they get the job done against the Chicago Bears? Kevin, I will start with you. Ravens versus Bears. Let's assume Lamar Jackson plays. Maybe he doesn't. I'll let you decide based on your prediction, but lots of things to think about here before we get on to predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these are two teams that are on opposite paths right now. It doesn't mean things can't change, but the Bears are on a heater. And, even though the Bears haven't played these incredible contending teams during their 4-game win streak, these are still NFL football teams. Now, the thing that I'm looking at with Chicago is, their defense, really good. I mentioned it in the turnover department. They're the best in the league there. They're not really good anywhere else. They're not good at defending the pass. They're not good at defending the run. In terms of yards per attempt, Chicago is the second worst run defense in the league. The Ravens actually have a better run defense than the Bears do right now in terms of yards per attempt, which kind of tells you how bad the Bears have been in that regard. They've given up 5.3 yards per carry. And then on the passing side of things, they're the 28th defense in the league in terms of net yards per attempt, giving up 6.9. So I feel okay if Lamar Jackson plays. Now, that is contingent on a couple of things. The offensive line has to be able to block, run block, and pass block. If the Bears are able to get to Lamar, if they're able to clog up rushing lanes, you're going to have a tough time on offense. But I think that, this Bears team, the big question for them, because I think honestly both teams have questions they need to answer. For the Bears, are they just fool's gold right now? Is this Bears team not who they look like right now? They're going to try to prove that it is for real in this game against the Ravens. The Ravens, they just have to win this game to stay alive, in my opinion, but they're going to have to prove that, all right, the bye week was able to change things up and they were able to get going. Look, we saw last year they had the bye week and things got a lot better. Hopefully history can repeat itself this time around. But again, if Lamar is not out there, I have no confidence. If he is, I am feeling okay about it. And the injury situation in Chicago offensively for them is something to monitor. I'd be curious if DeAndre Swift is able to play, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, those guys. So right now, even Chicago on the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Caleb Williams, that their offense is kind of middling right now. It really has been that the Bears have given their offense opportunities to score over and over again because they're getting the ball back for their offense. So even when the offense goes through dry spells, the defense is saying, hey, go try it again. We're going to get you the ball back and get it to you some of the time in really plus position where it's maybe, opponent 30, opponent 20, and you have a short field if you're that offense to go in there and score. So I feel like this is going to come down to the turnover battle. But if Lamar does play, I know Kyle Hamilton had something to say today about how the team, if there's a guy in a corner, they're always going to punch or something along those lines. Like those guys are always swinging. The Ravens are backed into the corner of all corners right now. They're going to be swinging and fighting and trying to get out of it. Whereas the Bears, maybe they're feeling a little good about themselves, and they should. They've played good football, but I think it all is going to come to a head on Sunday.
So it's interesting because, you know, Tony, you bring up a good question again. Can they win without Lamar? If he doesn't play, what's our chances? I think he's going to play. All right, good. We got that out the way. But I think that in the mind of the defense, I'm going to switch it up. In the mind of the defense, they got to feel like Lamar is not out there. He's not going to save them. And it's them against the world. Like, they don't have an offense. They don't have a special teams. Their coach is under fire. No one believes in them. Like, all the cliches, all the it's us against the world cliche at work. All hands on deck. A-game material has to be priority number one. Have to. Like, KO, you're absolutely right. Lamar should not have to carry the defense as well as the offense. Give him a short field. What's wrong with, getting a turnover and now the ball's on your 40? What's wrong with getting an interception and taking it, pick six it? Or, running back think he's got it on a 35 and it looks like he's about to, they punch it out. So short fields, turnovers, creating momentum shifts. Give us a fourth down stop after a long, methodical drive. Maybe they just figured out some things and then all of a sudden you draw the line in the sand and the crowd is cheering and everybody is like, oh yeah, we're about to do this. And you step up and do it. And you feel that momentum shift. Those are the things that we as the fan base / the people who, are fans of Lamar and the offense and what it can do. But we know that this team, the defense, can easily set the tone and tenor for this game by stifling a Caleb Williams 4-game win streak offense.
I agree completely. I think it's going to be on the onus on the defense to put the pressure away from Lamar Jackson. And speaking of pressure, I want to get your thoughts on the pressure that we're kind of placing on Lamar Jackson in this contest because, he's coming back from a hamstring injury. He didn't perform particularly well against his Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to face pressure similar to that of which we get in the postseason because, again, we talked about it. If the Ravens don't win this game, it's over. The postseason dreams are dashed. So lots of pressure for him to perform for this offense, perform for this team. He's at home performing. Is there concern to you, and this might be a little bit premature, I'll start with you, Kevin, that the pressure that he feels in the postseason may be similar to this and that his performance may suffer because of that pressure we're putting on him?
I'm not sure if it's postseason pressure per se. I would probably more lean towards what we've been talking about in the offensive line where, we talk about this with other quarterbacks. CJ Stroud is one of them who Houston's O-line is awful. If you watch that game on Monday night, I mean, he couldn't do anything in that game. And you start to see when you don't trust your offensive line, you start to get what they call happy feet in the pocket and you start to dance around. You start to be unsure of yourself. And, I think in some of those moments, look, you can be the greatest quarterback of all time or one of the all-time greats or one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the present day. If you have guys bearing down on you, whether it's free rushers, guys winning off the line, Lamar Jackson can do everything in terms of, making offensive linemen look better than they are and escaping pressure that's created by offensive linemen and poor offensive line play. But when it happens over and over and over again, and it all kind of comes back to your kryptonite, Lamar Jackson on his own team, offensive line, Superman cape take, which I know everybody loved the analogy, but your take is true. It's like, when that's happening to you so often, you start to get into your head of like, how much time do I actually have? Can I actually sit back here? Because I remember the conversations early in Lamar's career, which weren't even true in the first place. But the whole conversation was, for Lamar Jackson, he get him outside the pocket, make him run, da-da-da. And that was all ridiculous in the first place because we know that Lamar Jackson is at his best when he can just sit in that pocket, go through his reads, and dice up defenses, getting out of the pocket, running and all that. Those are added bonuses to his game. But Lamar Jackson, when he can sit back there, go through his reads, feel comfortable, and just deliver dot after dot after dot, that is where Lamar Jackson is at his best. So I think there is pressure, but Sam, I'd probably go away from postseason for now and more so talk about the offensive line. And I don't know if it's pressure, if I'm using that analogy. I think it's more just like, could it be lack of trust? I'm curious to see if that's the answer.
I would say this. When you look at Lamar, Todd Monken and Lamar and the game planning, Todd Monken, Lamar, the game planning, Isaiah Likely, Todd Monken, Lamar, the game planning, Isaiah Likely, Derrick Henry. I'm just going to keep on going on and down that list. They all are going to flourish if, in fact, the offensive line can give them some strong, solid protection and running lanes to go through. Because I know Isaiah Likely is going to have a breakout game. I know that Zay Flowers is going to definitely come back after a horrible game against the Rams. And I think Derrick Henry, we saw that, in spite of the fact that my offensive line hasn't really produced for me, I'm going to still get mine. And you got your right-hand man, Pancake Pat, back in the fold. Bigger picture-wise, I think this team / offense, defense, special teams is going to come out and play like they're on fire. And it's going to build from there. I kind of just psyched myself up just in case you didn't know.
Steve said it best. No turnovers
let's go.
W. That'd be great. Maybe the game-winning kick from your boy Tyler Loop will be great. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point. Hopefully, we blow out the Bears. But let's get final score predictions. I want to get it from you, Kevin. Starting with you, who wins this game?
Man, I'm gonna go the Ravens win it, assuming Lamar plays. If Lamar does not play, I do not think they win. So, assuming Lamar plays, I'm gonna say the Ravens win this one. And put me on the spot. I'm gonna say final score 29-21 is the final score for me.
I like it.
For me, I think it's simple. Stop the run, put Caleb Williams on his back, and create turnovers. I don't care if it's a forced fumble or interception. I think the defense is going to play inspired. That's going to happen. To Steve Loop's point, yes, those turnovers are going to be critical. Not turning the ball over is going to be important as well. And that Bears defense is no joke. You got to be able to control the tempo of the game and make them pay. Isaiah Likely is going to have a huge game. I see it. So with that said, I think the score, mother of pearl. After watching them play against Washington, I think that they are capable enough. But this time, I think they only scored 13. Because Lamar is back, I think the Ravens scored 35. 35-13. And the whole world, their hair is going to go on fire. And we, the squad show, we're just going to remain composed and be like, what? We'll say something. Come on. Everybody, oh my God, are the Ravens back? Ravens this, Ravens that. We're just going to be like, yo, this is how we do. We predict things. Things happen. What up?
That'd be fantastic. A couple weeks ago, everyone picked the Rams to beat the Ravens. Obviously, that came true this week. We're all going to pick the Ravens because I'm picking the Ravens to win 38-24. I think the Ravens take care of business here. I just think that with Lamar Jackson and that running game and the run defense of the Bears, it's going to be a long day for that Bears team. That's if Lamar Jackson plays. I think even if he doesn't play, I think the Ravens still make this a game. But with Lamar Jackson, no doubt about it, I picked the Ravens to get the job done. That's going to do us for us here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. I appreciate all of you guys for joining us here today. We'll see you back here after the Ravens-Bears game on Sunday. Again, appreciate you guys for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you're listening here live. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, be sure to give us 5 stars. We will see you on Sunday for this pivotal matchup between the Ravens and the Bears. Hopefully the Ravens get the win. If we do, stay tuned. We'll talk all about it. See you soon.